Shalom, peace, and blessings. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kejuan-Marquis. If you're new to this channel or if you're returning to this channel, welcome. So, we're going to be talking about ghost stories today, and I have quite a few to tell. My main goal with this channel is to share experiences that I've had in my life, to share my hobbies, to do vlogs, if they're called, and yeah, just let you guys into my world and have fun doing it too. So, I've done SR videos, I'll be doing nature videos, I like fishing and things like that, but as a Christian, I want to share as much as I can with people. Hopefully you guys can relate to it. So I do have ghost stories to talk about. You know, some Christians may not tell their encounters and things like that for whatever reason, but I'm open to a certain extent. So I'm going to share stuff with you guys, and I'm really sharing because I hope that the person out there who's watching at 2 a.m. or tomorrow morning is like, man, I'm glad someone finally is saying what's happening to me, because I experienced that same thing. I just never knew how to word it, or I never thought anyone could relate to it, especially as a Christian, you know. So let's get into it. So I grew up in Michigan. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and at about I think 3 years old, we moved to Georgia, and my grandma got sick, so we moved to Michigan. And we've been here, I've been here ever since. Our family pretty much has been here ever since. So it was like a decent sized migration for my family, cousins and things like that. We all just came to Michigan. So, all right. I'm trying to tell you guys these stories, and sometimes it can get interesting to retell it. So, okay. So we grew up in a complex in Michigan called Ryan's Creek Apartments. Now these apartments have been rumored to be built on an ancient Indian burial ground. So off the top, you already know where this is going. So it's just like, especially from Michigan, a lot of history here. I'll say that. So I won't say the city right now, and maybe in future videos it might slip out or whatever, but I won't say the city for now. But it's Ryan Creek Apartments in Michigan. If you want to do some research, go from there. So we grew up in this complex, and there's been some interesting things that have happened while I was there. So let's start with the first one, and one of the most creepy stories of ghost encounters that I can tell, possibly one of the scariest, depending upon who you are. So this encounter didn't scare me, it just puzzled me. So we were doing laundry one day, and I have 4 sisters and a nephew who's 3 years younger than me. I'm 29, so I know how it sounds, but he's 3 years younger than me, so he's like a brother to me. So we're doing laundry one day, everybody's in the living room, and the way my apartment was set up, it's the living room, dining room area. The kitchen is this way, and there's a gap, like a little wall, like a little column, like a flat column, and there was a chair sitting there. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Every time I make a video, my nose starts itching. And so the kitchen, the little column, and then the hallway, I think. So if we're folding, my mom is over here, I got siblings here and here, and I'm right here next to the wall. Like, if this is the wall, this is me. So I'm facing my family, and then I turn around for some reason, and I look at that chair, and there's a man sitting in it. And this man is about at least mid-50s. And he has, I want to say, his left hand placed on his thigh, but it's like this. So if this is his thigh, he has his hand set like this, like an old timer. And he slouches over, and he's staring at me, and he's just smiling, like a cheesy smile. And I'm just like, hey, there's somebody in this chair. So we all turn around and look. They all turn around and look, and they don't see anything. It had disappeared. I'm looking back, I don't see him anymore. We get back to folding. I'm like, hey, there's somebody in this chair. We all turn around. They look back at the chair, and there's nothing again. He reappeared, and then he disappeared. And this happened 3 times. The final time, I'm like, hey, there's somebody in this chair. This thing is, he's looking at me. And he has his hand every time he appeared, he would have his hand on his thigh, and he would slouch over and he would smile at me, kind of like this. But it was like, and then he disappeared. But the thing that stood out to me, the reason why I can recall this story so well, is because it's like when someone smiles the way he smiled at me, it's almost like a how do I word this? It's almost like someone is proud of you for something. Let's say you graduate high school or college. Let's say you do something amazing or something like that, and someone's like, "Oh, okay." Except he just had the smile. He was still faced, and he just had the smile. I don't want to do the smile, but he had the smile, and he was just staring at me, and I'm just like, there's somebody in his chair. No one else saw him but me. And I'm 29 years old now. This happened when I was about 11 to 13 or 14, I want to say. No, 10 to about 14. Somewhere in that time. And I haven't seen him since. So he appeared this time and then he left. This was at Ryan Creek Apartments, the complex that's said to be built on an ancient Indian burial ground. So you can imagine the stuff that went on there. So that's one encounter. I haven't seen this ghost since. There's another encounter specifically where, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we had bunk beds, and I'm on the top bunk. So this ghost, he comes up the stairs, and I'm sleeping. And this is the most interesting part of the story. I'm sleeping. I get up. So I'm laying this way. The bunk bed's right here. It had the rails. So I'm laying this way. He comes upstairs. He stops in the hallway. As he's walking this way, he stops. And my room is this way. And then he turns towards my room. He walks up to me. If you are me in bed, this is where he was from me. So he's about like here. He doesn't get too close or nothing. I don't think he tried to scare me. And this is a white man. And he says, "Where are they?" He asked me a question. I've never had a ghost ask me a question before, but he asked me a question, and I'm up because he woke me up out of my sleep. So I'm up, and I'm just like, that way, and I go back to sleep. I wasn't afraid. In any of these ghost encounters, I'm going to tell you guys, I wasn't afraid. So if maybe someone has experiences like that where they're not afraid of the ghost, hopefully this helps you. But he asked where they're at. That's all he said. Where are they? I point to the back room and I go back to sleep. So the way this was set up, again, you come up the stairs, there's a long hallway. We have a computer room, a study room, but it was a computer room. My room is like slanted, and you go into my room, and then you keep going straight, and there's my sister's room. And I point to their room, and I feel like my mom was in there for some reason, because she would tuck us in at night. There was something where my mom was upstairs in their room for some reason. And he just keeps going. He goes that way. And I go back to sleep. I don't know what happened after that. Nobody remembers seeing anything or saying anything about it. And yeah, that was another instance. So here's what stood out that was creepy about him. He was a white man. And that was creepy in and of itself. Like, what are you doing up here? Why do you want to know where they're at? Who are they? So he keeps going. And what stood out to me also was his clothes. So he had on baggy army pants, and he had a rifle hung over his shoulder. So he's coming up the stairs like this. He stops, and I get a good look at what he's wearing. He's tall. I think a door frame is about 7 feet tall, so he must have been about 6'3", because he's like head level with the bunk beds, and I'm a kid, So yeah, he's wearing the baggy, dark green and black army pants. I think he was wearing a white beater. It must have been like a white one or something like that. And he has a rifle slung over his left shoulder. And he asks where they're at, and he just keeps going. So this goes back into the ancient Indian burial ground story that I was saying. Maybe it's connected with that. Maybe he's military. I don't know, but I know he was out of place for many reasons. He's white. I'm not being racist or nothing, but he was a white man. Camouflage. He wasn't related to us. He shouldn't have been in the house. And what did he want with them? Who was them? And why would he ask me? What was the significance with him asking me that question? Never had a ghost ask me anything else. They showed up, but they weren't asking questions. So I never forget it. I never forget it, ever. There was another instance where, so again, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, if I didn't already say. So again, bunk beds, right? So my sister is in the bottom bunk doing something. I think we were watching, we used to watch these TV shows together and stuff. So we'd have a little box TV with one of those fat TVs, and we only had the one, so we'd have to share it. So she's on the bottom bunk, I'm on the top bunk. My mom was throwing a party downstairs. So I think this was the same complex. We moved around a few times in that same city, and these kids come upstairs. And if you can make out the color of my shirt, it's like a washed black. So imagine this color, but minus 50% opacity, I think it's called. It was 50% lighter than this. It was like a transparent black, like a watercolor acrylic black. So these kids were not all black people, black children, but they had the same appearance to them, where they were like a watercolor black. So they came upstairs and they were dancing. One of the girls twirled and did a spin. The rest of the girls were waving and happy and stuff, and they looked really happy. Again, I wasn't scared. I don't know about my sister, but I was cool. So they came up the stairs. One did a twirl, and they left. I think they kept going. I want to say that they kept going by. And I asked my sister, "Did you see that?" And she said, "Yeah." So this is an encounter where two people saw the same thing. And what stood out about this story, and this goes back into the men wearing the out of place clothes when he came up to my bunk bed. The girls were wearing these old-timey dresses with the puffy sleeves that were really short but real puffy. The really old-time dresses, and then it flared out at the bottom. I don't know what they're called. I think they're called dresses, but they would flare out at the bottom. And that's what they were wearing, and they were just dancing and stuff like that as they ran past. And we didn't have siblings that young. My mom was throwing a party, but I don't think these kids were part of the party at all. And they just came upstairs. We would randomly see stuff. So I have more, but I want to let this video continue to flow. If I have to come back and make a part 2, I will. But I don't know. Here's where I speculate. I don't know if the city that we lived in was some kind of I don't know if there was a veil that was, I don't know where to even speculate, but it was just odd. The whole thing was just odd. What else can I tell you guys about the complex? It's called Ryan's Creek. The way it's set up is there's a creek, literally you have to find it, but there's this creek if you go back far enough. There's a creek, and there was an old timer who ran a junkyard or something, because he had a whole bunch of old stuff, dirt bikes, cars, and he'd always yell at us when we would go back there. So if this is the complex right here, this is a huge field, and you walk the field enough, because kids explore. So we walked this field one day, and there's a huge drop off. Imagine if a crater was to fall in the ground and leave an indentation. For some reason, there was a huge drop off, and it was noticeably large because we would have to slide down. This is the trajectory of it. If you can see, hopefully you guys can see, boom, and then it would kind of taper out smooth. I don't know why it was like that. And then you get down in there, then there's the trees and everything else in it and whatever. But there's a little stream, a little creek back there. So I guess that's where the name came from. Nothing too creepy stood out about the place. There was one instance when we were back there where I noticed there was something hanging from a tree. There was something hanging from a tree, and it was in a black bag. And me and my sister were there again. And I remember telling her something. I think I pointed it out. My cousin, my sister, me, and I think some neighborhood kids. And I said something about a body bag. I was younger. And we ran back. This is us walking down this thing. The tree was this way, and I could see something black hanging from it, and I just thought body bag. And we never got close enough to open it or anything like that, but it was hanging from a tree. So yeah, I don't know what that was about, but I'm going to try to mention as much detail as I can from this place. And hopefully you guys can maybe, I'm not going to say where the city is right now, but maybe you guys can relate in some way to some of the stuff that's happened. All right, so let me tell you guys about my faith. I am a Christian. I never touched the Ouija board, never touched anything weird like that. My mom, honestly, my mom used to do the card reading, that tarot stuff, and I know that's not right. So maybe that invited some stuff in. Other than that, we're a pretty normal family. Nothing too out of the ordinary. No creepy uncles anywhere. No weird aunties to worry about. There was a family tragedy that happened when I was very young at that place, in that city. It was a lot that went down in that city, but there was a main river. I'll say that, and there were two tragedies in one day, and I won't speak on it now because I don't think it matters too much about the story. But yeah, there was a lot going on. So yeah, hopefully you guys can relate to this story. I have ghost stories, UFO stories, personal encounters. Yeah. Oh, here's another one. So I was in bed one day, and this is when I moved out, but the same city I moved across town. You know, I'm in my 20s at this point, and my mattress was on the floor. I was always making stuff, so I would make what are those the beds sit on? The beds are on this what do you place the bed on before with the headboard? The frame. So I'm a woodworker, so I'm always making bed frames and dressers and end tables and stuff, and then I take it apart and make something else. So at this moment, my bed was on the floor, and because I practice minimalism too. I forgot that detail. I practice minimalism, so I think that's why I was on the floor that day. I just like to keep things basic. So I wake up to the sound of somebody reading to me, and it was a woman's voice, and I'm just like, what is this? So this thing is, whatever this is reading to me, and it could have either been poetry or it could have been the Bible. Well, it was one of those two. It sounded real sweet. That's all I know. And poetry or the Bible, I lift my head up because, well, first I open my eyes and I'm just like, I live alone. So I'm opening my eyes and I don't want to look. And I'm just like, what is that noise? And you know, I lift my head up and turn and there's nothing there. So I thought that was interesting. I think that was the most creepy story as opposed to anything else, because why are you reading to me? I will mention two more things before I go. So I don't know how long the video is. So I've had sleep paralysis in my life, throughout my life since I was a kid. That was creepy. Briefly, I used to get the white noise. I would see if you ever had a VCR, when the movie's over or when it's about to begin, you got the static, you got the black and white dots, and you got the crackling noise. That's what would happen, and that's what I would see. And then I would, my vision would come back, and I would hear something approaching my room. If you can remember the story about the ghost who said, "Where are they?" And I pointed to the back room. My sisters were so sweet, they had switched rooms with me. So I eventually got their room. So my room was straight back now. What I got was the bigger room, and they got the huge closet. The closet in my first room was very big for some reason. And their room had a closet that was like the size of like 5 by 8, I don't know, but it was very tiny. So I'm in the back room this time, and I could hear something approaching. And my bed was just disaligned from the door that I couldn't see anything personally. And I would always hear the buzzing get louder and louder and louder as something approached. And it would never show itself to me. But the buzzing would get louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. So yeah, that's another one. So I have had sleep paralysis throughout my life. And yeah, UFO experiences too. I don't want to make this video too long. So I think I'm gonna end it there. I think maybe part 2 or maybe the next video I upload will be about the UFO encounters I've had. But hopefully you guys find something interesting about this video. Hopefully you can relate to it in some way. My name is Kejuan-Marquis. Thanks for watching. And again, I'll share my experiences as a Christian, as a young man in this world. I've had ghost experiences. I've had UFO experiences. I've had creepy instances in the woods where I hear things that are there that I can't see. I also like to fish. I also like the outdoors. I like the water. I like being near water for some reason. I like nature. I'm an artist. I've sold paintings before. I used to be a welder. I'm a full-time student, getting my doctorates now. I'm 29 years old. So you're gonna get a bunch of different forms of content from me. I love metal detecting, things like that. I want to get into the gun range, do some target shooting, build content that way. So you're gonna get a lot from this channel, but I'm gonna be posting frequently to get my channel up there, get in the algorithm. So if you do subscribe, don't be annoyed by my constant uploads. Just turn off notifications. I'm just trying to build the channel. That's all. So, till next time, shalom, peace.